Morning, guys. Welcome to Coffee Chat. Wow, is it ever a beautiful morning? The rain is coming down just ever so soft. And here, try and take a listen. See if you can hear it. I hope you can hear that. It is just that soft, gentle little pitter patter of the rain coming down, and it smells just amazing out. It is truly a beautiful morning. Well, guys, today is Thanksgiving Day here in the United States. And I was out there looking at some articles and this, and I was starting to think about it a little bit. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to actually come out and talk about anything that I've read this morning. Instead, I thought I'd come out here and share a little bit of my journey in life and why I am, I guess, what makes me me a little bit, and why I am so thankful. You know, I am genuinely grateful for the goodness of God in my life. Now, does that mean that I have never experienced any suffering or grief or loss or pain? Absolutely no way. In fact, I've experienced a lot of, heavy duty circumstances in my life that almost in some cases drove me to deep despair. And one of them was I got married quite young. And, my ex-wife and I, we had some kids and stuff like that. Well, one of our sons was born, and don't share this a whole lot, so hopefully you'll get something out of this. He was born deaf, blind, mute, and with quadriplegic cerebral palsy. And I remember thinking how, unfair it was, of course, that my son would be born like that. And it was my youngest son. And needless to say, by and by, I just kind of, it kind of hit me really heavy. And I remember one time I was sitting at my, in my bathroom, my sink, getting ready for work and what. And, I was just shaving. And while I was shaving, it just struck me all of a sudden that this son of mine was probably never going to fall in love, was never going to experience a lot of things first in his life. And because of, him being so handicapped, he wasn't even able to eat food like we do, and he was G-tube fed, and so it would almost have been a cruelty to put ice cream on his tongue or something like that because he could never really have it. And so he was missing out on a whole bunch of those things. And I just started to weep at that moment and just kind of crying, over, the heartache of him not ever being able to, experience those things. Well, as it turned out, literally right about that same time, I had read a story. And in this story, it was another father sharing, his experience with a handicapped child. And what ended up happening in that case is, he had a mentally challenged child. I don't know what the right way to say it is, or maybe it's Down syndrome, or I'm not sure what exactly they call it today. But needless to say, his child was challenged. And one time he was walking by a back sandlot, where kids would play ball. And his son was tugging on him because he saw a group of kids playing playing ball in the sandlot. And so the kid wanted to play, and the dad was like, no, because he was afraid of the rejection his son would face. So needless to say, he ended up capitulating and letting his son go over there. And the young kids on the field said, sure. So when it came up time for his son to go to bat, the guy who was pitching, the kid that was pitching, moved in real close. And some of the other kids came around and helped the little guy with the bat. And when the ball got hit, and even just went a little bit, all these kids ran up to this little fella, and they grabbed him and heaved him on their shoulder and ran him all around the bases. There you go. You can hear that rain, I hope. Needless to say, the father watching this whole scene just started to weep. And what he said he saw perfection that day. And what he realized from that moment, it's like God came in and told him, hey, look, you can't see what I'm doing here, but your son was for the perfection of others. And that really ministered to me because it seemed like my son was going to miss out so much on life. But God even has a plan in those things. And believe it or not, for a child that was born deaf, blind, and mute, there are times when you would be sitting there, and all of a sudden he would break out into the greatest heaps of laughter that you would ever hear. And in my mind, I just felt like, hey, he must be have angels must be attending on him, and he has something to be happy about. Now imagine that. Even in a circumstance like that, a person, a human being, found something to laugh about in life, and yet not even be able to see or hear or anything. It reminds me of a quote. I believe it came from Helen Keller, and I used to keep this on the bottom of all my emails, kind of like as a salutation. And and it goes something like this: kindness is something the blind can see and the deaf can hear. And I really do believe that. It transcends experience, it transcends what we're going through at the moment. And look, guys, my encouragement is don't look at your circumstances. Don't look at all the what you don't have. Let's focus on what we do have. And I'll tell you what, we're taking none of this stuff here with us when we go. And the only thing that we will leave behind of any true significance in my mind is how we have reached out and touched one another. And so kindness is something the blind can see and the deaf can hear. And I'm telling you what, just share kindness with your family today. No matter where you are in the world, whether you're celebrating Thanksgiving or not, show a little kindness and see the dividends it pays. It costs you almost nothing, but boy, what a dividend it does pay, that's for sure. So now that is one experience that I went through in my life. Now, another really difficult experience that I went in my life, of course, was my divorce. It was really, really heartbreaking. And I remember one time, I was feeling in such agony and pain, and I was so broken. And I love to write. And in this brokenness, at one point, I really felt like God saying, hey, David, I know it's hard for you to understand this, but, your brokenness is beautiful to me in a particular way. And I thought, what? How can you possibly think that? And in my mind, what I saw is like one of those, Eastern European loaves of bread, round loaves of bread with a kneaded top. And it was broken up in half. And there was something like olive oil flowing out of it. And it was a beautiful image that I saw in my head. And I ended up writing a poem on that. And one of the stanzas in the poem, I won't share the whole thing, but just one of the stanzas, says, although there are times we cannot understand how our suffering can be in his plan, we can still trust that he'll see us through if we remind ourselves God suffers too. Look, in our suffering, we're not alone in it. God has also felt that feeling of rejection. He's also experienced what it is, to be lost, suffer loss and brokenheartedness. And that's the whole point. Because when he sent Jesus for us, it says he came to seek and to save that which was lost. So God has experienced loss too. And I know it feels like when we're suffering that we're alone in it, but you're not alone in it. And I know a lot of people this Thanksgiving are really, really hurting. And I just want to reach out to you and tell you something right now. I may not know your name, I may not know your circumstances, but I know that you exist and that's what you're going through. And my prayer is that today, of all days, you experience God's great love for you because he genuinely does. Now, hey, look, that's just how I kind of approach the world. And I've learned to do that, not because I lived a life of great, good times all the time. No, I learned that by going through my suffering and coming out on the other side. And I know how good God is because in the bad times and the hard times, you know what? He showed up in my life anyway. And it's kind of like that poem, Footprints or whatever it is. And the guy, he's walking along the beach and he looks back and he sees all the bad times in his life. And there were only one set of footprints. He says, God, you left me in my greatest time of need. And God comes back and says, hey, when you're looking through your life and you see only one set of footprints, I didn't leave you. That was when I carried you. That's how I look at it. And guys, listen, I want you to know you have worth. You have value. There's something great about you, and you are going to make it. You have been made in such a way that you have the ability to go through far more than what you really think you do, and you're going to make it, and I'm going to make it, and we're going to make it together. And I can't wait for the day when we actually see the reality of what we've been kind of setting off on the side, especially in this digital asset space. It is going to happen, and I'm going to see you in the winner's circle. We're going to be there together. Now, guys, I really am glad I had the chance to come out here and just share that on here, and I'm so thankful for each and every one of you. Look, I haven't been able to make comments lately on the comments, but I'll tell you what, I have been reading each and every one of them, and I read them every day. And so I see every comment that comes through the pike, and when you see that little thumbs up and that heart, that's me. That's me telling you, hey, I acknowledge that. I heard you. So guys, I hope you have an amazing day, and I am going to release a video later on this evening, and so that's something that you can enjoy, and I just want you to be totally blessed and have a good one. Take care.